Through the years, I've thought about opening up a shop and had a couple opportunities to open a shop, but it just never felt perfectly right. Financially, it was there, but just something wasn't right. And then, of course, when financially it wasn't possible, everything else was perfect. So I figured out a way to still do it, and I opened up a shop when it really wasn't, I really couldn't afford to do it at the time, but it was the right thing to do, and best move. Absolutely best move for my family, for my legacy, for my children. I've been here 10 years now. We just made 10 years in August, and it's been quite the ride. It can be both ways. Sometimes it can be very difficult trying to figure out how to visually represent somebody's idea or a feeling. But for the most part, once, I think in anything you enjoy doing and you have any kind of reward from, you definitely have some serious struggles. And I struggle a lot of times with creating designs, but then it makes for a larger, makes for a larger reward at the end. But sometimes it's really trying to, what people think they want, but when you delve into the conversations to get deeper into what they want, you find out that really that's not what they wanted. They really wanted something else that they didn't really realize was possible. The Kraken piece I did was one of my favorites. I get in most recent. Collectively, I need more work on myself. Well, if you come here, I will never hesitate to sit down and have a deep conversation about what you want, why you want it, and if this is the right direction we should be going with you. A lot of times. And it's amazing how many people really appreciate that in the long run. A lot of them appreciate it, some of them don't. Usually if they leave at that point, but if they stay and I can get them to understand and move on to the next, what design and why, it's always, because a lot of people don't really realize how tight detail can be in a tattoo, and not everything on paper works on the skin. So usually that if I tell somebody that's not something that's going to work, it's usually just because of the lifetime of a tattoo lasting in the tinier details that they try to put them in. I had a kid that came in and he wanted, it's just because it was prime open real estate, and he wanted to get only God can judge me on his arm. And I said to him, I was like, you want to put only God can judge me in the middle of this whole bare arm you have there? I was like, isn't there something else that you've always wanted? And he was like, well, I've always wanted to sleeve my arm with a dragon. He's like, but I don't have very much right now. I said, well, we can always start. We can get you started on a layout, and you can heal, and we can move on to the next step in a couple months. You can save some money. And by the end of that, he went from only God can judge me to a full sleeve dragon arm. He came in to get something that day, and that wasn't really what he wanted. He just thought that's what he could get because of how much money he had. So I directed him toward a process.